The No Money But Dreams podcast is for those millennial dreamers
who try to be in the top 1%.
It doesn't matter what we've achieved.
We wake up every morning with the mindset that we're still broke.
We welcome you on our journey in search of that home run.
Which can change everything.
Everything?
Everything. Welcome to another episode of No Money But Dreams. Today with Trish, my sister-in-law. And today we're going to tackle a topic that a lot of people are very interested in. It's about Dubai and how it is to live here. And who better to get on the show than Trish, who has lived here now for just over a year and has been commuting between London and Dubai for God knows how long. And now is going to tell us what Dubai is really like, what it is to work here, what the dating scene is like, what the food scene is like, and all sorts of other topics. So let's get right into it. Tell us, how did you make the move? What triggered you finally moving here?
So, well, obviously you and Tracy, my sister, have been trying to get me to move to Dubai for about 8 years, since about pretty much when you guys moved. And I usually come and visit 3 times a year at least, probably more actually. And then things started to kind of change, like during COVID, when COVID struck and I was stuck in the UK. At that time, I think I was also jobless as well in the UK. Finally landed on my feet, finally got a job after a bit of a hiatus. And then, we went back into lockdown, another lockdown. And I came over for Christmas and ended up staying for 6 months. So it was a bit of an insight into actually what it's like working from Dubai, but obviously I was working remotely, so working UK hours. But it was just a bit different because I actually got to spend time with my family. And it was something that I didn't really realize I was missing out on until I had that quality time here. So that was pretty much the realization. I was like, okay, something has to change. And the misconceptions that I had about Dubai completely vanished because I wasn't here on holiday anymore. I was actually here living. So I actually understood what it meant to be living here. And then so I bought a place in the UK. I went back to finalize all of that and I started making my way over. Yeah.
And making your way over is not the easiest thing because in Dubai, surviving in Dubai without a job is really tough. So how did that go? How did job search and then finally being able to move, how long did that take you?
So to be honest, when I spoke to everyone, the common theme was you need to know someone here. You need to know someone in the industry before you can actually move. And I was like, well, I don't know anyone. So what do I do, right? So I think I went over back to the UK sometime around June, I think around my birthday. And then I actually moved over to Dubai just before December. So that took me about 5 months. To be completely honest, I wasn't full on, oh, this is what I want to do and I'm fully into this because I'd only just bought my first place and I thought, well, I'm going to make a little home. I can finally get settled. I can finally have one point of where I'm actually living. So what I ended up doing is I figured, I was if the right opportunity comes at a job that I actually want, then I'll go. As opposed to just being I just need to kind of move to Dubai for the sake of it. So I essentially started scouting. I had my Google alert, I had my LinkedIn alert. I was literally searching for the perfect job. And obviously as we talk about all the algorithms, right? The more you search for a specific type of job, the more recommendations you get. And now even LinkedIn is constantly sending me job recommendations. Until I found, I think there was 3 jobs and I was okay, these I would actually be excited to move for. And I applied to them. The first one I spoke to, I'm not going to name names, I spoke to someone at the company and quite quickly I was this is not for me. The second one wasn't really vibing with where the company thought they were going to be going and I thought the roles a bit basic. And then the third one obviously being Amazon, and that's kind of what got me here.
Yes, but getting a job at Amazon is not as straightforward as people think. You took how many rounds?
7-8 rounds of interviews over a period of 2-3 months. Yeah, it was a unique interview process, one that I wasn't necessarily well equipped for. I think I was quite lucky that my interview style just happened to kind of align with Amazon's interview techniques. But essentially, you have a vetting interview, then you have an interview with your hiring manager. And by the interview with your hiring manager, you are capable for the role, right? The other 6 interviews that come after are purely to make sure that you're fit to work at Amazon. Yeah, so it's almost like they have this like prototype of like the sort of person they want to work at Amazon, and you kind of have to fit that prototype. So you just get drilled.
So you had a good job actually in the UK,
Yeah.
in media, and then you got a good job with a big company out here in Dubai.
Yeah.
And when you there are some misconceptions, or some people may think about working for a big tech company is really hard, and in the UK and in America that's probably the case. How is it when you work for a big tech when you come out here?
So especially like big tech, there's going to be some fundamentals that stay the same, regardless of where you are, right? The work culture is relatively similar. Now, Amazon has a really bad rep globally. They're known for working you to the bone, which I wasn't really prepared for. But from a local perspective, you also have local traditions and cultures that come into play. I would say compared to the UK, like the UK is extremely fast moving, it's fast paced, and you are just getting swept up into it, that you don't actually realize how fast, how hard you're working, etc. You're just going because that's all you know. So coming over here, it was a bit of a pace adjusting, right? So expectations are still high, don't get me wrong, but people worked at a slightly different pace. Like I have a lot of people that I work with who don't even wake up until like 10 a.m., so, but then they work much later. So there is a level of flexibility that comes with like the local cultures as well. And people are a little bit more flexible when it comes to like your working times.
Which is something that since COVID, a lot of people are striving for.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole, you have to come back to the office and all of that affected you as well?
Yeah, it's affected me as well. But I think it's because when you're working for like big tech, you have these like global mandates that you have to like adhere to. So even though you're a local perspective, like if globally the message is everyone's going back to the office, saying this now, they do realize that each office is slightly different. So, I think the mandate is like you have to be in 3 days a week. But even within that, we still have a level of flexibility, which is quite nice. So I usually go in 3 days a week, which I'm happy about, because I think when you're completely remote, you don't actually have a culture. You don't have like a work culture per se, right? You don't build those relationships that sort of, on the flow thinking and brainstorming with your colleagues doesn't really happen as naturally as it would like if you're in the office. So a balance for me is, I would say, kind of where I'm happy to be.
So you were pretty happy moving over and then starting a new job and kind of starting from scratch again after, building quite a career in the UK before.
Yeah, strangely enough, that didn't scare me at all. But I do know that for a lot of people, that is quite an intimidating thought. That really doesn't scare me at all, because I think for me, I always think, well, what's the worst that can happen? The worst case scenario is I don't like Dubai and I move back to the UK. Like going back to where I was is not a bad case scenario. Yeah. I still have all the credentials behind my name. I still have everything that I have. So I can go and probably get like a good job in the UK. So that's not, I don't really know what's so scary about that. But speaking to some friends and trying to get them to move over, they're like, well, I have to make new friends. And
isn't it that once you live in Dubai, you become the ambassador for Dubai and you try to get everyone to move here as well?
Embarrassingly so, yeah. I mean, you guys used to do it and I used to be like, oh, that's enough. And then now I catch myself doing exactly the same thing. But I think also kind of like, I want my friends to have same lifestyle that I have, where it's, you get out of the rat race, you obviously make tax-free money, you're in the sunshine, like...
Wait, let's rewind a little bit, because I remember our discussions when you were kind of like on the edge of moving or not moving, and you did a little pros and cons, and how would you be better off and would you not be better off, and you were trying to tell me back then, no, it's the same, like I would be making the same, right? And now that you're 15, 16 months in, I can tell you that it's not the same. Well, you can tell me that it's not the same.
No, it's not the same. It's really not the same.
First of all, you live walking distance to the beach. Like you live at the beach, right?
By choice.
Yes. So you live in a really, really nice place in the marina, right? Which was definitely an upgrade to where you were in London. right?
Yeah.
And then, second of all, you've paid off your Tesla within a year, right? Which is also not something that you just do in London like this, right? And then what about travel?
Well, travel for me pretty much costs nothing, right? Because I have an electric car and I've paid that off, so that's kind of done. But travel in terms of like traveling outside of the country.
Yes. How is it different living here than in the UK? Because obviously we've got Emirates, we're much closer to Asia. Have you taken advantage of this at all?
Yeah, I'm a busybody. I love to travel, and I think like the benefit, what I loved living in the UK was how accessible other cultures and countries were to me. I could be anywhere, even like in 2 hours, you can be in a completely different country. Now, obviously, the Middle East is slightly different, right? We know that there's some political issues in some countries, so there can be a slightly more, I would say, like fear tactic when it comes to traveling in the Middle East. But so far, I mean, I've been to Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, Israel, and just I travel a lot here, so it's not the same by any means, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, you're not going to a European country for a visit, but you're going to other countries which you haven't seen.
Exactly, and I think it's great because you can...
And I mean, hold on, like you just went over this as if it's nothing, but you went to Iraq and you went to Israel, which are two countries that not a lot of people, even that live here in Dubai, go and visit. How was that like?
I loved it. I think... being here for me is a massive opportunity to step outside of my comfort zone and go to places I ordinarily won't go to. Like, I'm not going to be in the UK being like, oh, I really want to go to Baghdad. Like, it just doesn't, it doesn't happen, right? But being here, I came across this like meetup group, and they organize travels, like some travels to like, the likes of Yemen or Iraq or some places that, if you're going by yourself, it'll be a little bit tricky. So I just tagged along. It was just very random. I was like, Baghdad, like, yeah, sure, count me in. What do I need to do? So it was really cool actually, because you have this misconception on these like, especially like, places that have had incredible like war and conflict for so many years. When you get there, they're the friendliest, loveliest people. There is no war conflict. Obviously, there's like military personnel everywhere, but it doesn't feel intimidating. People are extremely welcoming because they just don't have that many tourists. So I would definitely urge people to step outside of the comfort zone and go and travel places that might be a little bit unheard of from a tourist perspective.
I think when you come to Dubai and once you start living here, you have a completely different view on travel. I mean, you have now mentioned 5-6 different countries and then in the summer you went to the UK and you went to Croatia and you went to a bunch of other countries as well, which you forgot, right? So you've probably seen like 10 countries whilst in a year that you've been here, right? Yeah. Which is not the norm when you're in Europe. Like you're looking forward to your 2-week vacation and that's it, right? Mm. So like that kind of work-life balance that you get from just going for a weekend or for an extended weekend for some holidays is amazing here. And for us, we take it for granted. And we've got more travel.
Yeah, I'm going to be going to South Korea next week and hopefully Taiwan if I can squeeze it in. But it's a great location, right? I've done Europe to death. And now it's finally nice to be in a position, location-wise, where I can actually kind of travel elsewhere. I don't necessarily need like weeks and weeks of holidays, So I think everyone always goes through Dubai when they're going anywhere else. It's like a major connecting city. So actually being based here means that you do have that flexibility to really, really like expand your reach and travel.
Mm. And I know that you like to go out.
I do.
And enjoy yourself. How is the safety aspect here? Because I know, like in London, you have to think about what you're doing. When you're coming out here, how is that different?
Oh my God. I don't even know. It's crazy to think that like I haven't locked my front door in a year. It's just like something that you just won't necessarily do. It is so safe. Like I haven't thought about safety once. I leave my car open. My stuff is just like sprawled around everywhere. The only thing is when I then travel outside of Dubai, I need to be like, oh my God, you're not in Dubai anymore. So just like relax, like make sure you lock your stuff, take your stuff with you. But in the UK, some areas that you walk past feel like, feels unsafe, but you don't really realize that you're kind of like in this fight or flight mode constantly. Like I'll be walking back home with like my keys like in my hand, or I'd have my headphones and I'm not listening to anything just so I can hear what's going on around me. It's a bit strange, right? But it's the normal. But then when you come over here and that is just like, you know, completely like removed, and it's actually safe. Like I can walk around the streets like anywhere in Dubai at like 3 a.m. in the morning and not for a second think, oh my God, something's gonna happen. Yeah, so from that perspective, like especially being a woman, it's amazing. And also that my friends all say the same thing. I don't think anyone has had any safety issues here.
I mean, safety is one thing. What about waking up every day and seeing the sun?
Oh my.
How has that changed?
So I definitely did not realize how much of an impact that was going to have on my mood, my happiness, my motivation generally. Like when you're in the UK, you wake up in the morning and it's a bit grey. That grey colour becomes the norm colour, right? So you're just like, it's morning and it's bright. It's not bright, it's not sun, it's just like slightly greyed out sun. Now being here and waking up and actually seeing sun and it is morning, I honestly don't know how to explain it. Like it gives you a slightly different zest of life, but also gives you a slightly different like meaning of what it means to be like daylight. Right, so I wake up in the morning and straight away, like I go on my balcony and I try and sit there with my cup of tea and just take it all in, because I would do the same when I was in the UK, but it's not quite the same.
It's not quite the same. Right, so sun is good.
Yeah.
Now we want to get into another topic, dating.
Oh.
You came over here by yourself, very different to how my experience was, right?
Yeah.
You got your own job. I came with a company from the UK back then, and you came here by yourself. You got your own job. How's the dating scene out here?
So the good, the bad, the ugly. I think dating out here can be a little bit rough. I'm not going to lie. So for a start,
but let's keep it relative. Let's compare it to the UK as well.
Exactly. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to compare it to the UK, and we're going to talk about like the going out culture. So you already mentioned, like I do like to go out in general. Yeah. In the UK, you go to an area. You go to Soho. You just wander around, go to a club, go to a few bars, go to a restaurant. It's all within the same area. You go out and you go to specific areas or places, right? Whereas in Dubai, you go out and you're like, I'm going to be going to Sushi Samba, and that's it. You want to go somewhere else? I need to make a booking for somewhere else and go there. There's no like areas that you just go and hang around and like mingle. So mingling is extremely difficult here, for a start. And I've spoke to like my girlfriends, my guy friends, and everyone has the same sort of feeling. Like it's hard to meet people organically here, which is crazy because there's so many single young people and they're all having the same sorts of issues. So like dating is very much predominantly like done on apps. Like everyone I meet are like dating on apps. Some of my friends are going on like 3 or 4 dates a week, which is wild. So that's a bit different to the UK. Because in the UK, there's like slightly larger friendship groups. People like live there, number one. Whereas over here, if you meet anyone who's recently just moved and you ask them, so how long are you going to be in Dubai? Everyone's going to be like, I don't know, maybe 2 years and we'll see how it goes. And then they end up staying for like a decade. But no one is really, like people just come and go out of Dubai. So it can be quite difficult finding someone who is like settled and actually looking for that settlement in Dubai. So I think dating it can be a bit tough, but don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of great people here. Like amazing people. You get to meet people from all over the world doing all sorts of stuff. It's a mass, I would say it's like a mass hub for like entrepreneurs. Like there's so many people doing their own things over here. So I've met so many amazing people here, but for some reason dating can be quite tricky. Finding the right person in Dubai can be tricky. And also Dubai also has this like image of, you know, flashy, everyone's really flashy and everyone's really materialistic, which is kind of true to a certain respect. So I think what is hard is finding really genuine, down-to-earth people. When you
Dubai definitely attracts that type of, you know, really wealthy kind of people that want to flash what they have.
Yeah,
but
we're tired of it.
Yes, that's true. It's true. But at the same time, it also attracts a lot of families, a lot of people that are just working as normal, or a lot of people that are, you know, 2-3 years into their career and they just want to try it out, and they're very different, right?
Yeah.
So That's what everyone sees on TV. But maybe that leads into another question of, how is Dubai different than what you see on Instagram? Because everyone sees the yachts, everyone sees the boats, everyone sees the cars, Burj Khalifa, Burj Al Arab, all of that, everyone knows, right?
Yeah.
But when you moved here, there were, like, maybe we can talk about food. Like, what's the food scene like here compared to London?
Okay, well, I'll start with the first part, like in terms of the image that everyone sees, the image that's portrayed. I mean, look at Dubai bling. Like, everyone sees.
Everyone here in Dubai actually hates Dubai bling.
Yeah, I know, I know. That's the thing, right? It is a facade, and it's a facade that is so far stretched because it literally covers the entirety of Dubai. Anyone coming sometimes finds it really difficult to penetrate past that facade and actually see what is the true Dubai like, right? And we'll talk about the food scene for a start. Any restaurant that's done well anywhere in the world probably has a little pop-up spot here in Dubai. It's such like a fast-paced industry, and I sometimes think that the people that live here are so difficult to please. They're just looking for the newest, shiniest thing, right? And don't get me wrong, like everyone loves Nobu, everyone loves like, this restaurant and that restaurant, and it's good. The food scene here is great, but if you can ask me like, where do I like to eat? What's my favorite restaurant? It's none of the flashy stuff. It's like the Yemeni spots. It's Buktir, which does like fried fish for, like £5. It's like random Vietnamese joints like hidden away. It's a little samosa shack that's like in Satwa. So there is so much beneath the surface, but it often takes someone who is already living here to show you that. Because I think coming into Dubai, especially as a tourist...
This was me.
That was you. I'm not going to give you credit for everything. But coming into Dubai as a tourist, it's already difficult enough navigating the vast amount of like restaurants, bars, and like where to go, let alone like where to go for authentic food.
Yeah.
And because there's such a plethora of cultures here, it's a real mixed bag.
Let's take on another point here, which just popped in my mind. People have this view, I'm not going to move to Dubai because it's all superficial and there's no culture. That's like one of the big things, right?
Yeah.
What have you experienced in your time here?
It is superficial, and sometimes there is no culture. So I think that statement is true to a certain point, but you have to break past the superficial part. Like you can hang out with superficial people all the time, but there's a ton of people like us, and majority of people I know, who aren't actually superficial. Like no one really cares, right? So you can live this superficial, flashy life here if you really want to, or you can make an active decision to just be yourself.
But at the same time, they say that and they say, you don't have anything cultural. Yeah?
So from the culture perspective, I mean, I struggled with this when I moved over here because what I enjoy doing is I love going to art galleries. I love like exploring the cultures of cities, and like I think that's why I travel so much. And I was struggling to find that here. But the Dubai culture, it is here. It's just not as everyone expects it to be. People expect like, the Middle Eastern culture, whatever they see on the television. Like it's completely different. Like there is so many like up and coming like music scenes in Dubai. And that is really part of the Dubai culture. There's like the food culture here as well. So it does have culture. You just have to put your prejudice aside.
You went many times to El Sakal for some...
Exactly.
Galleries. You can go to the opera. You can, like, there's now so much offering here that you can, if you want your culture fix, you can get that here. And then, the other things which are very close to Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah or Hatta or any of the other kind of towns here where you've got mountains, you can go hiking, you can do all sorts of different stuff.
Massively, and this is kind of what I spend most of my free time doing. Like I go to Fujairah and I'm like snorkeling and seeing like massive turtles, and it takes an hour and a half to get there. I go to Sharjah, which is a massive art community, and I'm art hub there, and I go there for like little gallery visits, etc. You go hiking. Like there's a lot to do outside of the little speck that is Dubai. Like we have to kind of look beyond Dubai and look at the whole of the UAE and the actual offering, because essentially it takes you like a max 2 hours to really get anywhere. And that's nothing, right? Yeah.
Now, one thing which we kind of touched upon already, but I want to just settle once and for all. No. How is it, is Dubai more expensive than London? relatively, because
had
here
to think about
you don't have income tax, right?
Yeah.
So that's already, your purchasing power goes to the roof, right? So what is more expensive here than in London? What's more expensive in London, and overall, are you better off?
So I'm gonna say a blanket, no. For someone who's actually, if you're living here and you're not just here on holiday trying to like go to all the beach clubs and all the nice restaurants, yeah. If you're actually living here, no, it's not. It's not as expensive as London. Transport, first of all, it's not that expensive. Rent, I would say, is probably similar to London prices, but a little bit cheaper. If we look at food, like eating at home, cooking, there is a variety of like, supermarkets. There's like the high end ones and the cheap end ones, and don't forget, like in Dubai, like of course there's all your millionaires or whatever, but we also have like this massive workforce here as well. We have a ton of like Indian, Filipinos who live here and live well here because they're able to buy stuff slightly cheaper. So I would not say it's more expensive than London. I think one thing that is more expensive though is the going out. So if you're going to the beach clubs, yes, you're buying alcohol, you're buying drinks. Like a drink will probably cost you, I don't know, like let's say 12 to 15 pounds.
But hasn't that recently changed with the tax, the 30%?
No, not really. So it changes like the net price, but obviously like everything else still remains the same. So they might be able to shave, I don't know, 50p or a pound off of it, but it's not like substantial for it to make a difference. So if you're going out, yes, I would say it's more expensive than London. But if you're just living here, no, it's not. But saying that, although we don't have income tax, I think I read this where they still find a way to kind of get that tax back from you, right? Like there's so much things happening here that you're constantly going out, you're constantly doing stuff. So I do think it's easy to spend here, easy to spend.
But you're spending this on enjoyment.
Exactly.
Right? It's not on tax. You're spending this to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
And you can choose to spend or not to spend, right? But if you want to live like a frugal life in Dubai, I think you can. You can keep your overheads relatively, short if you want to. But most people don't because obviously they're not being taxed. So for them, it's like additional income.
What haven't I asked you about Dubai that people should know when they're considering moving here, or just, that they should know about your experience that you've had here so far?
I think that it does take a bit of time to feel settled here. It's hard to find things, especially if you like anything underground music, underground food scenes, whatever. It can take time to find all of that within Dubai, but there's a ton of it. You just need to find it. Like you have to go digging. So I think it took me about like 6 to 8 months to really feel like, okay, I live here now. Like there's a period of time where you feel like you're floating for a lot of it.
Because you're used to coming here on holidays, and then it's like, oh no, I'm actually not going back anywhere.
Yeah, and like integrating yourself in the society of Dubai as well. Like like making friends, feeling comfortable at work. Like there's a period of time where you do feel like I don't really know what I'm doing, and that's okay. I think really I moved to Amsterdam, and that took a while in itself. Like every country, like you're not gonna just suddenly get there and be like, I feel like I belong. Like it takes a bit of time to get settled, to find what you actually like within what's available. So like for me, I love walking. I would wake up in the UK and go for like a 3-hour walk and listen to an audiobook or a podcast or whatever. Less easy to do in Dubai, right? So I have to actively go to the beach, drive to the beach and walk along the beach or cycle, yes, which I do a lot of as well. So you have to.
Yeah, but now the great thing is you literally get out of your house and you cycle all the way to Burj Al Arab and back for 2-3 hours, and it's just a different thing.
Exactly, it's finding your new normal, like within what it actually has to offer, as opposed to just expecting it to be exactly the same, just with a bit of sun. Like that's unrealistic, right? So you have to be willing to actually actively do the work to find things that you enjoy within here. Like even in the food scene, like yes, of course, there's all these really nice restaurants, but supper clubs are huge here. Like it's now like the up and coming thing. Like everyone's doing a supper club. Come to my house and for the supper club. So there's lots of cool stuff happening. You have to be sociable. ask people what's going on, and you will find that there is so much happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, I feel like everyone is here because they've just recently moved here.
Yeah.
They know the feeling, right? It's not like new that, oh, there's another one that is here. And they're much more open to invite you to these things to kind of like help you integrate.
Yeah, people are so welcoming here. Like so welcoming. And also I think because there is such like a massive Arab community as well, and within that community and that culture, they're extremely welcoming. So I would just say, like, you know, if you're coming to Dubai, be prepared to say yes to a ton of stuff. Say yes more, say yes to the random workout classes, say yes to going for dinner here and meeting these random friends, because you expose yourself to people that you ordinarily would not have met if you were just like doing your usual stuff in London. And I would say, like, you know, my time in London, I would just hang out with the same people all the time. Like I had my friends, I had my work colleagues, and it does get same. Not in a bad way, like I loved it, I had a great time, but it was hard to expose myself outside of my little clique.
Trish, you become so Dubai.
I know.
You just said it becomes same. It's just such a Dubai thing to say.
Oh God, that's embarrassing.
No, that's great. That's
no,
great.
it's true though, but it is true.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I loved our discussion. Thank you so much
you.
for giving me your time and sharing your experience. And I hope that many people listening took something away from it, and the prejudice against Dubai is slowly fading.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. See you next time.